Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please call the roll.
I'll reflect that Councilman Marcoccia is not here yet, but will be arriving, correct, Supervisor?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you. He's on his way.
Okay. Councilman Dooley?
Here.
Councilwoman Nicholson? Here. Councilwoman Marcotte?
Here.
Supervisor Colavita?
Here. Okay, the first matter on our agenda is a public hearing to consider the adoption of the Town of Eastchester's 2022 calendar year budget. Speaking of the devil, in he rolls. Hi. It's all right. Anyway, so we need a motion and a second to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, please call the roll on opening public hearing.
Councilman Marcoccia?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Okay, while we're waiting for anyone to come down, I want to just mention a couple things. First, by law, I'm obligated to recite the salaries of elected officials incorporated in our budget as follows. Supervisor, $98,093, and I will note that has not changed since the year 2004. Council members, $63,324, that's all four together. Judges, $85,090, both together. Receiver of taxes, $55,000. Town clerk, $87,605. Okay, with that being said, actually, is there anyone upstairs to comment? Okay, then Dawn, would you like to please do a presentation for us? I introduce Dawn Donovan, our town controller, for some highlights.
All right, good evening, Supervisor Colavita, Town Board, and residents of Eastchester. I just wanted to do a quick, short budget presentation for you. Okay, our overall town budget is $680,000, which is $324,000 over last year's. Some highlights of the budget is that our tax cap is at 2%. It's the 11th year in a row that we stayed within the tax cap. And in 2022's budget, it's 2%, which is what is allowed. AAA reaffirmed our AAA bond rating, and we're in the top 3% of the fiscal monitoring system. And then I just show our tax rate per thousand for town-wide, town outside, sewer, and Garth Road parking. Our budget will be online as well. The average assessment in the town of Eastchester, your Eastchester resident, not including the town-wide portion of your budget, is a 0% increase. The town-wide portion for Tuckahoe and Bronxville are at 0.5. So Tuckahoe, it's $11 cents more per month, and Bronxville is 35 cents more per month. And some other highlights of our budget. Oops, I went the wrong way. Sorry. Goes this way. There we go. Our health insurance is increasing 4%. Our retirement system is a decrease from last year. Our sales tax and mortgage tax have small increases in the budget. Our union contracts, which is a big part of our budget for our salary and benefits, is CSEA expires in December of this year, and the PBA we just settled, and they expire next year. Our fund balance for the town-wide and town-outside budget is $14 million. We're using 2.7 for this budget to reduce the taxes for the taxpayers of the town of Eastchester. Our debt ratio is 1.84, which is a very low debt ratio. Our retirement system, like I said, is a big part of our budget. It's a decrease from last year, so we're decreased by over $600,000 from what I budgeted for last year, so our overall contribution is $2.3 million. And our workforce, as I said before, is a big part of our budget. We're down about 33% since 2003, so we kind of go back to that year when the supervisor was elected the first time. We always go back to that benchmark year. And that includes my notes on the budget.
Well, speaking of that benchmark year,
yes.
When I first became supervisor, that year's contribution to the retirement system for both police and civil service was, I think, $104,000.
Yep,
then naturally, when I became supervisor, it jumped up into the millions, of course. But I'm glad to see at least it's down about $600,000 from last year, from 21-22 to 22-23. which we appreciate. I think that a lot of that has to do, of course, with the market and what happened recently. But I will say that the town board worked very hard, as did the controller, as did department heads, to come up with the 0% tax rate increase. That's not an easy thing to do, especially on the heels of COVID. Also, for the town-wide budget, we were at 0.5%. And I know that Ms. Donovan had mentioned the dollars there, but it's worth repeating. So if you live in the village of Bronxville, your town tax, which is approximately 1.5% of your overall tax bill. So if you reside in the two villages and you look at your entire tax bill, you know, school tax, village tax, county tax, fire tax, everything in there, the town of Eastchester is only about 1.5%, maybe tops 2% of that amount, okay? So, you know, the other 98% are not the town of Eastchester, not our budget that we preside over. But you're only going to pay $4.16 more for the entire year. So all the fields, the senior programs, the court, you know, all the stuff that you get to use and that we provide, and, you know, the services that you pay for will only go up 35 cents a month. On the village of Tuckahoe, it's $1.37 for the entire year, or 11 cents per month for the services that the town provides to you. So, you know, those are pretty substantial with regard to, you know, how low they are. At 0.5% was our increase there. The other thing that I think it bears, you know, recognition is that Moody's has rated us as AAA, which is the highest rating that a town government can get. And what that means is we go out and borrow money, we can then pay, we're paying some of our TANs, for example, tax anticipation notes, and some of our borrowing is at less than 0.25%. So if you're into finances, you realize that that's basically free money. That's, you know, an exceedingly low rate. If your credit card rate or your mortgage rate was that low, you'd be feeling pretty good about making those payments every month. But what that translates to is that our ability to borrow is very, very strong. And we can borrow more, we can do more, and pay back, you know, literally peanuts on each dollar. So that's an important thing to note. Also, having 33% fewer full-time employees is also very significant, because, you know, these days you can tack on 40% of a salary to benefits. So it's not just the salary per se, it's also the benefits that we're not paying as well. And of course, that means everybody else has got to do more than they normally would have, but our employees have embraced that. And we are still delivering excellent services, though we have a 0% increase for the town outside budget. Also, as you probably are aware, if you follow us at all, we have consolidated departments and consolidated positions repeatedly, and that nets savings for taxpayers as well. Dawn had indicated that our tax levy cap has never been exceeded. We have never once voted to exceed the tax levy cap, and our debt ratio is at 1.8, which is, you know, very, very low. So, you know, we're at a point where we can afford to do a 0% tax increase. Also, I would add, we did have a modest increase in health insurance premium, as the entire world gets, and there's been no appreciable increase whatsoever in our anticipated liability insurance premium. That was an issue recently, and that's basically going to remain flat as usual. But this also comes at a time when, you know, inflation is upon us, and we're very careful not to increase our estimated revenues. It's very easy. A lot of people pull this little trick. They go out, they increase their sales tax, increase their mortgage tax, increase all of their fees, and what that does is that makes your increase in your tax rate go down. The problem is, if you're not realistic and you don't hit those milestones, you have a very, very big problem. You have holes in your budget. We have not done that. We will not ever do that. Our anticipated revenues are very conservative, very modest. We've exceeded them each year, and that enables us to have this strong Moody's rating of AAA, and also a strong fund balance. So it's all kind of related together. But I do want to thank the board for all of their work. This is not an easy process. We had a meeting with the Lake Isle Advisory Board for hours, and we have a very modest increase there. Plus, we're keeping a lot of things flat at Lake Isle. We're expecting wonderful things going on there. We talked about the indoor pool we're all working on. We're also working on benefits to the golf course. The caterer is now up and running. He's getting, bookings all over the place. So we just referred him a wedding the other day. So things are picking up there, which is very good news. And we're glad that he was able to sustain during this entire crisis. Hopefully with Omicron, things, don't get out of hand again. But so far, so good, knock on wood. But thank you to our department heads. Thank you to Dawn. Thank you to the board members for putting together a very good budget. So, any further comments from board members?
I just,
Of course.
could. I also want to thank our supervisor for putting this budget together, for the town board, for all the work that they've done on it, for all of our employees, for all that you do each day for us, to you, Dawn, for overseeing this whole process here. And one thing that our supervisor said that I think is very important is inflation. We all see it. We see it in our staples every day, the milk, the eggs. We also see it in the meats that we buy. We see it at the gas pump, and we see it with home heating. And they're not small increases, they're large increases. So I think for us to be able to deliver, by and large, a 0% tax increase is just a nice thing for our residents, and something that we worked hard to do throughout the course of the years, actually, and also this year, to be able to be in a position to do that. And inflation doesn't stop this year, it continues into next, but hopefully it sort of subsides a little bit. But this is just a little something that we can do to keep rising costs in check. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Dooley?
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. I'd like to thank the supervisor and the rest of the board for the work they put into the budget. All the department heads, because I know every year they get pushed, keep your budgets tight. And obviously, Dawn, our controller, for doing a great job. It just gets more routine and automatic every year, which is great. And I'd like to also thank the Lake Isle Advisory Board for the work they put into in the rates at Lake Isle, all the improvements that we have planned. That committee puts in tremendous amount of work. And also the library board. The library board also puts in a tremendous amount of work into their budget and their planning, and they're usually very good at keeping very tight control over their finances there. So just an all-around thank you to everybody who participated in the budget process.
Okay. Someone care to make a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I'll second same. Please call the roll on closing the public hearing.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Okay, I'll make the motion to adopt the 2022 preliminary budget as our operating budget for the year 2022. Someone care to second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilman Marcoccia?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Okay, next that brings us to appointments, and we have the appointment of several police officers, and the first is the probationary appointment of Michael Pascal of Eastchester to the position of police officer in the police department. The appointment will be effective on January 3rd, 2022, at the annual salary of $77,546 with holiday pay of $39.10. And candidate Pascal appeared on the police officer eligible list number 60-194, established in September of 2021. He shall serve a probationary term of not less than 12 weeks and not more than 78 weeks. The appointment is contingent upon the successful completion of the background investigation, medical exam, and completion of the Westchester County Civil Service paperwork. And funds have been provided for in the 2022 budget. Someone care to make a motion on Mr. Pascal?
I'll move it.
I'll second. Oh, thank you, Joe. Please call the roll.
Councilman Marcoccia?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next is a similar appointment to the police department This is the probationary appointment of Brian Donovan of Eastchester to the same position. The appointment would be effective on January 3rd, 2022, to coincide with the start of the police academy. The annual salary would be $55,506, and the holiday pay would be $27.99. On that point, the prior candidate is already a police officer. He's transferring into the department. That's why his salary was a little bit more. He's a multi-year veteran. Candidate Donovan appeared on the police officer eligible list 6194, established in September of 21, and he shall serve a probationary term of not less than 12 weeks and not more than 78 weeks. And his appointment is also contingent on the successful completion of the background investigation, medical exam, and completion of the Westchester County Civil Service paperwork. And we have provided for his salary in our 2022 budget. Someone care to make a motion on Mr. Donovan?
So moved. Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilman Marcoccia?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next is another appointment to the police department, and I'm requesting the probationary appointment of Anthony Celestino of Eastchester to the position of police officer in the police department. The appointment would be effective on January 3rd, 2022, to coincide with the start of the academy. His annual salary will be $55,506.00. Holiday pay, $27.99.00. Candidate Celestino appeared on the same eligible list in September of 21. He shall also serve a probationary term of 12 to 78 weeks, and his appointment will be contingent upon the successful completion of the background investigation, medical exam, and completion of the Westchester County Civil Service paperwork. And we've also provided for his salary in our budget. Someone care to make a motion, Mr. Celestino?
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Councilman Marcoccia?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. And lastly is the appointment in the department, in the police department, for a probationary appointment of Jacob Reese of Eastchester to that same position of police officer in our department. The appointment would be effective on January 3rd, 2022, to coincide with the start of the police academy. His salary will also be $55,506, and his holiday pay will be $27.99. Candidate Reese appeared on the same list, 6194, and he will also serve the probationary period of not less than 12 weeks and not more than 78 weeks. And his appointment is contingent upon the successful completion of the background investigation, medical exam, and completion of the Westchester County Civil Service paperwork. Funds have been provided in the 2022 budget, and I will make a motion for Jacob's appointment and ask for a second, please.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilman Marcoccia?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. We wish these young men lots of luck. They're all, very young. They're all in their early 20s, and it's nice to see young faces coming in again. And one of them is a transfer in, as I mentioned, and they'll start. What happens now is they go through this checking and the background examination. Then they'll start the academy. Once they get through the academy, then we will have a swearing-in ceremony here for them and their families. But we're very excited that these guys will be working for the town of Eastchester. They were terrific candidates. We were very impressed with all the candidates. I mean, all of them came in, were very strong, very dedicated, very determined. They showed a lot of good character. So we think we have a nice group here in the department. Anyway, so that moves us over to approval of the minutes. We have the minutes of the November 16th Town Board meeting, November 22nd Special Town Board meeting, and November 29th Special Town Board meeting. Any modifications or amendments?
No.
There being none, I will make a motion to approve same as submitted and ask for a second.
Second.
Right. Please call the roll.
Councilman Marcoccia?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next, we have reports of departments, boards, and commissions. Town clerk report. Anything to add? Okay, thank you. We'll receive and file the October 21 report. Next, we have memorandums in our correspondence agenda from the controller on seasonal employees. We have a couple of seasonal employees here. I will make the motion and ask for a second, please.
Second.
All right, please call the roll.
Councilman Marcoccia?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next, we have the memorandum from the controller on budget transfers. We have some transfers in salaries and building maintenance supplies and recreation services. I'll make a motion. Ask for a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilman Marcoccia?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte.
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita.
Aye. Okay, item 9C, we handled already when we did our public hearing for the budget. That brings us to miscellaneous business. There being none, we have council member reports. Councilman Marcoccia.
Thank you, Supervisor. Just a couple of things here. Number one, the Town of Eastchester Residential Food Scrap Program. There are BPI compostable bags for sale. They're a roll of 30 and they're $4, and they're sold here at the town clerk's office, not at the highway department. They are 3-gallon bags to be used with a 2-gallon container. So anyone interested in the bags, please pick them up here in the town clerk's office. Also, just an update on little report here on Lake Isle. As we approach the end of the year, it is good to reflect on how much better a year we had at Lake Isle compared to 2020, and in many cases better than a normal year such as 2019, pre-COVID. Some areas to highlight are as follows. Membership enrollment returned to more expected levels as they were pre-COVID, with resident membership enrollment holding steady to 2019 and non-resident membership enrollment having a bump up. Coupled with an increase in rates, it yielded revenues of 20% or higher, 20% higher in 2021 compared to 2019. Of all of our daily fee options, the golf daily fee revenue have turned into 2 of our best years ever for 2020 and 2021. Once COVID hit in early 2020, being outdoors was a top priority for many, and golf was one sport that became very popular. This daily fee play yielded new members in both years, and as new golfers found our course, they enjoyed it very much. From year to year, revenues can vary based on weather, COVID, and other factors, and sustaining the increase we have seen these 2 years may not be a guarantee, but seeing an increase of 37% compared to 2019 and 75% increase compared to 2018 sure is a welcome result. I also want to add the early bird sign up for the following season, which takes place in August, has been in place for 7 years, which is an opportunity for members to renew for the following season earlier than our regular registration time. Of all the prior years, the current enrollment for 2022 season is the highest by far as compared to the prior 7 years. In fact, it's more than double any of those prior years. It's definitely a good start to the 2022 season. So it looks like we're off and running already for the coming season. The golf outings tend to vary based on group interest, and with COVID in 2020, we had just one outing at the end of the season. But in 2021, there was a strong bounce back with revenues, which were the highest in 4 years. And the outlook for 2022 looks even better, with about 5 new groups showing interest already to host their outings here at Lake Isle. So despite coming off a challenge in 2020, the understanding of the need to keep up with capital improvements remained, as work on the golf course continued, as we added new car paths to holes 6, 12, and 16, drainage along the 4th and 12th fairways, and new large turbine pumps to the irrigation pump house, the second of the 2 new pumps. We also installed a beautiful new playground at the kiddie pool area that everyone will enjoy this coming summer. A successful year at Lake Isle is first measured by everyone's enjoyment. A successful financial year also means greater improvements. It is clearly obvious that we have a great thing going at Lake Isle. It looks better than ever, and it serves our residents very well. And I just wanted to close by wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday, as well as a happy and healthy New Year. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Councilman Dooley.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Yeah, this time of year, we get to go to a lot of the neighborhood tree lightings, which is great. So, you know, this past weekend, I was at the Green Knolls one, which was just so well attended. A lot of new families, a lot of young kids running around. Santa showed up. The fire truck was there. Just a great event. Everybody singing. So I'd like to thank the highway department for helping out there. I know they put the lights up on the trees and the barricades are out there, and I know the police show up. So thank everybody who helps out on those tree lightings, because the neighborhood associations really appreciate them. And I know there's some more happening this weekend. And I'd also like to thank the rec department. This time of year, they're also very busy. They worked on the Santa stop in conjunction with the chamber, which was the attendance this year. I've never seen an attendance that large at the Santa stop. So thanks to the chamber, all the sponsors, and the rec department for making that happen. And also the town tree lighting, which took place on Sunday night, which again was another great success. So thanks to everybody who helps out in making this a special holiday season in the town. That concludes my report.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. I just have one announcement to finish off the holiday events for the Park and Recs. We have the Winter Festival this Sunday at, that's December 12th, from 11 to 2 p.m. in front of the Town Hall. And then we'll have our, I know Wilmot Manor Civic Association will be celebrating their tree lighting on Friday evening at 6 p.m. at the Triangle. And yes, all the events were just wonderful, well-attended. Even the Gelt Festival event that we had was kicked off on Tuesday, last Tuesday, was also well-attended and great weather. So happy holidays to all, and Happy New Year if we don't see you in the next 2 weeks. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Thank you, Supervisor. Just a couple of things. I first want to acknowledge and say thank you to the Veterans Post 2285, Commander Foster, and many of the men. We're in the village of Bronxville this morning. Hard to believe that 80 years ago today was the infamous attack on Pearl Harbor. And we have such a phenomenal veterans group that they simply will not let you forget about what it means to be a veteran, what it means to have all the freedoms in this country. So they were there at St. Joseph's this morning talking to the school children about Pearl Harbor. They did a beautiful flag ceremony. Mayor Mary Marvin was there, the supervisor was there. So I want to thank the veterans for, as always, doing a fabulous job. I also want to talk a little bit about the Eastchester Historical Society. I know we heard in Luigi's report, you know, during COVID, a lot of things didn't happen. And of course, the same thing is true for the Historical Society. This is our second year without our very large fall fundraiser, which really helps to sustain us through the year. So I'm going to give a plug for the map. If you haven't seen the map, and I believe Gary Miller is putting together a PSA commercial, if you will, on the Channel 19. It's a beautifully illustrated historical map that the Historical Society is selling. It's $25. It comes unframed, and it would make a great holiday gift for someone who either lives here or maybe used to live here and moved away. If you want us to ship it to someone, we're happy to do that. It's an extra $10. So they're available at the clerk's office. I believe they're also available in Bronxville at the clerk's office, as well as the Tuckahoe Village Hall. And of course, you can reach out to myself or any one of the Historical Society board members. Also wanted to give a shout out for the Tuckahoe Snow Angels. Even though it's called Tuckahoe Snow Angels, it is a town-wide program when and where we can get volunteers. I do have some problem areas that I do need volunteers, so if you know of a student or a young teenager or even a child that wants to participate, they can get some community service hours for their participation. They can reach us at tuckahosnowangels@yahoo.com. We are in need of angels on Joyce Road, on Ridge Street, on Lakeview Avenue, on Fairview, and there's a few other areas. If you are looking for an angel, also reach out. The program will definitely try to accommodate you when and where we have a volunteer, and that's sort of how it works. So, and lastly, I just want to, I sort of didn't get a chance to speak on the budget before it was closed out, but I want to thank the supervisor and thank Don and the board. The supervisor touched on the fact that we didn't take the easy way out, and of course this board never does. There's a lot of gimmicks you can do, and of course you can raise taxes, you can raise revenues, and you can do all of those one-shots to make it look a lot better, but they didn't do that, and they held the line, and they're still providing services, so it's truly a commendable job, and I thank you all on the board for that. So that concludes my report, Supervisor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was also there today, as you had mentioned. It was very nice to see the young people out there learning all about Pearl Harbor and learning about the flag and whatnot. It was pretty good event, I tell you. Our veterans, they do a great job. Also, credit to Agnes Holzberg. Councilman Dooley mentioned the new lights that were put up on the green veil tree, and that was her brainchild. When we were at a block party, I think Joe, I, and Luigi were out there, and she said, hey, you know, we need some lights on that tree. So I thank Rocco Latella for making that happen for the Greenholes, Greenvale neighborhood. My own report, I want to touch base very briefly on Lord and Taylor, because everywhere I go, everybody says, what's going on, Lord and Taylor? Please tell us what's going on. So we had a meeting with all of the key players of Lord and Taylor, you know, the Hudson Bay Group, and you know, this new iteration of that location is very much in the infant stages. They're hoping maybe by April, perhaps March or April, they can, you know, file some kind of application, but it's going to be a long process. But in essence, what they're looking to do is to keep the iconic footprint of the Lord and Taylor building, with the exception of the area to the south, which, if you've been here long enough, you know, used to be Cracker Barrel, North Fork Bank, Lindt Chocolate. That area is coming off the building. They're not going to use that part of the building. And they're going to build a structure right next to the border on White Plains Road. And that'll have some retail in it and, you know, office space and whatnot, perhaps some food establishments. And in the large building, they want to put in, their suggestion at this point is to put in a Saks Fifth Avenue, because the owner of this site also owns Saks Fifth Avenue stores, among many, many other endeavors and businesses and properties. So that'll encumber a portion of the footprint. They also want to have some health and wellness offices on the interior of the building to cater to the population that may move into the site and around it. Also executive office space and the like. Presently, there's a lot of scaffolding on the building because they're installing windows. You know, if you know the building, the back is just a monolithic wall. So what they're trying to do is introduce natural light into the entire facility. So there'll be a lot of windows going in. They received the building permit for that, part of their planning board approval. Then in the back of the property, they want to develop some senior housing. Senior-only housing along the back, which is kind of along Willa and the golf course. And that would wrap around to the front. And that would all just be, you know, simple rental apartments. And they also want to introduce a little bit of a cultural component. They want to put an art gallery in. I know the Osiris Gallery we had mentioned that to them and trying to attract something along those lines. And they're also working very closely with the Eskenazi Group, which is the shopping center to the south of that, meaning from Athleta down. So it's a very good project. I think it needs more massaging. It needs a lot of input. We will have some meetings with neighborhood associations as they, you know, continue to develop this liquid into a gel, into, you know, a hard surface so they can make an application. But they're all about Eastchester, which was very refreshing to hear. They're not selling the property. They're not flipping the property. There's no, you know, housing going in that's, you know, not appropriate for that site. They are committed to keeping the historical elements of the building in, back from 1946 when it first was constructed. So, you know, it was kind of nice to hear that. You know, we want to make sure that they stick to that, and we'll be working with them each step of the way. Margaret Yulee and I, Margaret is our town planner, we met with them for a couple of hours. We saw a scale model of this, you know, proposal. Very, very interesting. You know, I think the best way to describe it is very high end. They are looking to make this a jewel. They don't want to just do something and get out or flip it. They want to hold on to this property. They want to make this thing something that's a model for other places to develop. So we were delighted to hear that. Anyway, as that progresses, I'll keep everybody abreast. But if you're in you know, that neighborhood, we'll be reaching out shortly as this develops to talk about what they're doing. We'll have all their people there, and, you know, questions will be answered. But it is a very, very attractive application, and it's something I think that is certainly preferable to some of the rumors that were going around about a Home Depot and a Target and, you know, all this kind of stuff. So that's nothing like that's happening. This is going to be a very high-end, you know, Saks Fifth Avenue, super spaced, beautiful, you know, really wonderful units for rent. So I think we'll be in good shape. Anyway, with that being said, I will conclude my report, and we're going to have a second opportunity to address the board. But before we do that, I'm not privy to who's upstairs, but there is an election for fire commissioner on Tuesday the 14th, a week from today, Tuesday the 14th, and you can vote from 2 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and you can go onto the fire board commissioner's website and find out where you vote. Normally, it's the same as you've been doing for the last couple of years. But what's important to note is that we are not the fire district. We are a completely separate government, as is the school, as the villages are. We are not the fire district. And if you're here to discuss the fire district election, you will not be recognized, okay? All the former supervisors, and myself included, going back to Francis X. O'Rourke, don't condone, don't permit electioneering or politicking at the town board meetings. This is not public access, this is Eastchester town government access. So if you have something that's germane to the town business that we conduct every day, and that is, basically affects us, you're free to speak. But if you want to speak on the fire district election, I would suggest that you attend the Board of Fire Commissioners meeting and speak there, or go on social media, or arrange for a debate, or do some direct mail, or whatever you think is appropriate. But we're not going to have electioneering here. We never have, and we will not. So with that being said, I'm going to open up the second opportunity to address the board. Yes. How you doing, Frank? See you on the weekend?
Excuse me?
I will see you on the weekend
Oh,
at
absolutely,
Rashino?
yes.
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board. I'm Frank Sweeney. I live at 22 Lakeview Avenue. Been around for about 56 years. I have 6 items that I'd like to at least address, and the first 4 are accolades to the town. I want to thank them for the sidewalks replacements on Oneida, Scarsdale Avenue, right place. Did a great job, and the person who did the contracting, the Belgian block, was done superbly at right place. We have a number of issues on Scarsdale Avenue where the Belgian block are not level. But I can tell you that the fellow that did the ones on right place, he did it the right way. He cemented it between the blocks, and they're right on. So I want to thank the DWP for monitoring that, and it was a great job. Also like to thank the DWP for their activity on Scarsdale Avenue along the train track. There's a wall that sits behind the cars. That's all been refurbished. Did a great job. Nice work. Great opportunity to liven up the opportunity. I'd like to thank the DWP for the lead pickup. Did a great job. They've been around a number of times. And again, they also helped us with installing the Christmas lights at Rashino Park. And again, we're going to celebrate the Northeast Chester holiday tree lighting on Saturday the 11th at 4:30. And I welcome all the newer residents in the Northeast Chester area to come and join us. 2 other items. I know that they've been kind of talked about, but I don't think anything has been put in cement. But I think as we open up the senior center at Lake Isle, it's obvious to me that we may want to consider an arrow configuration for the southbound traffic coming on 22, and possibly a delayed light going north on 22 so people can get in and out of Lake Isle. I know right now we do not have an arrow there, but I think we need to take consideration. I understand that light is the town light. I know it's not an easy thing to look at, but the idea is we need to take a hard look in terms of getting either a delayed light, making a left turn into Lake Isle, or an arrow light that gives people time to make that left so they can get into the driveway. I think what basically we're looking at is someone to do a study, and basically since we're opening up the senior center, that's even going to create a little bit more traffic, and those seniors probably need a little more help making left-hand turns on Route 22. And if we could put a program together or a committee to take a look at it, maybe it needs to be done at the county level, but we need to take a look at it again, because I think right now with the uptick in the Lake Isle membership, I think it's appropriate that we take a real hard look at putting in a signal or a delayed signal to allow people to get into the club. The last item on my list is something that I spoke to you about 8 weeks ago, and it's concerning what I'll call the cable project. I'm just trying to determine whether we've been in contact with the vendors, both Cablevision and the others, on determining what they're doing to take down the wires. Have we had any dialogue with them?
Yeah, Mr. Latella has spoken with the providers, and I'm sure you've seen, there's been a significant reduction in the cables coming down. And, you know, while we're doing our negotiation with Verizon and Cablevision, we're going to try to work that into our agreement with them with regard to service and delivery of service.
Well, I just feel that we provided a list of inventory of more critical things that needed to be fixed. I haven't seen any of them done yet. So I don't know where they're riding around or what they're doing, but I haven't seen anything in terms of the relationship that the inventory you asked us to do. And we provided it to them.
Right, and we provided that to Cablevision and Verizon. But, you know, we can't touch the wires. We can just get them to do that for us.
Have we got them to commit to do it?
I know, but we're just so you understand, so we're clear, so people at home are clear. We are not them. We can't force them. We're trying to work with them to try to get them to do the right thing, to take this stuff down. And what we're also going to do is, like I said, try to work it into our agreement with them.
Okay. Well,
but there have been little trimmings going on, though.
okay, it just appears that we're not in control. That's my concern. Because right now, we have mysteriously wires hanging 6 and 8 feet from the boxes. Now, someone's cutting those wires. It's not people in the homes. These are 10 or 12 feet off the ground. So someone is cutting the wire. And I know each one of them swears they'll never touch any other's wire. But someone is doing it. And someone needs to take a hard look in terms of what's going on.
And Frank, with regard to the traffic light, probably, 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, the DOT installed a new traffic light at that location. You know, if you're coming up, what is it, Highview? No, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the street. What's that? Hilldale, that's what it was. If you're coming up Hilldale, there's a brand-new traffic light that was installed, and that was timed and coordinated with the traffic light at Lake Isle. And when the DOT did that work, they had done substantial studies there, and they had figured out that, you know, the present configuration for timing and all was appropriate. Now, with the senior center or the community center, it's still going to be the same number of seniors going in and out of there, probably maybe a little bit more, but not an appreciable amount. But it's strange the way DOT works. They do all these calculations, they put this lights in and whatnot, and when you ask them for additional lanes and whatnot, they tell you, no, you don't have the width to do it. Like over at the high school. Up in the high school, you're headed southbound on White Plains Road, and you want to make a left into the high school onto Stewart, you know, Old Stewart, across from Apple Court, right? They said, you don't have enough width, you can't put in a dedicated left-hand turn lane. But then, like 10 years later, there's a left-hand arrow up there. So I guess they figured out that that was okay. They may do the same thing at Lake Isle. What I can do is I can have Mr. Latella check with the DOT and see whether or not, like we could do a delay. I think the delay may be a better solution. At the intersection of Mike Farrella Way and White Plains Road, where EMS used to be is now Columbia, right there, they had a backup from people going and coming from games at Handle Field and coming from, from the ball field down below, Labriola Field where TYA plays. So they did a delay on, or they added time to the left-hand turn out of there. And they added time for the left-hand turn out of the parking lot. And that worked well. So they went from I think it was 4 seconds to 7 seconds. And that, you'd be surprised how many cars you can get out of there in 3 seconds. So maybe something like that may not be a bad idea. I'll check with Rocco.
If you can address it in terms of whether they come back and reevaluate it again, that'd be great. I think in terms of the additional senior load that we're going to have at the Civic Center now, I would think it'd be ideal is to have either a delayed light or an arrow light so they can make the left-hand turn. And basically, I don't know if there's a difference between an arrow and a delayed light in terms of the cost involved, but somehow there should be some middle ground.
Yeah, well, the delayed light's a lot easier, because the arrow light you have to put a new light in.
Okay.
And what they'll do is they'll tell us, you have to pay for it. We're not going to pay for it. So that would be a big, a very substantial amount of money.
Well, if you're taking a look at 20,000 people in town, and you're talking about $5 a person, maybe we're talking about 100 grand. I don't consider that a lot of money.
Yeah, well, it's a lot more than that.
Well,
but either way,
give me a number.
The issue is that they have already examined the location. Well, I don't even remember now, but there was a big flood, and all that water came and washed that whole line out, and they replaced the entirety of that whole system. And they put something across the street on the town right away, and then something over on Dr. Tornator's corner, and, they got it all worked out. They all configured it. So I don't know how resistant they would be, or how receptive they would be to making a change. But if you don't get it, if you don't ask for it.
That's
right?
it. So that's where I'm here. I'm asking for the
a good idea.
possibility is to step up and address it in terms of the capability. And in closing, I just need some help in trying to get these wires squared away. And leaving it in their hands is where we lose control. That's not something I feel very comfortable with. It's just
Don't
not,
disagree.
because they're not doing anything at this point,
Yeah,
and they haven't done anything for
Yeah,
2
they've
years.
They've done a little bit. You got to give them a little, give the devil his due. They've done a little bit, but not enough. And we're going to try and craft it into our agreement with them, and hopefully that'll work.
I guess the real issue here is that when people change service from one to another, are they aware of the cost involved in taking down the old line? Whose responsibility is it? Is it the homeowner? Is it the person who changes the service? Is it the carrier, the vendor? Is that spelled out in our agreement now?
No, I don't think, I think it's silent as to that. But, that's something we're going to try and introduce. And I think what it really boils down to is the cost of copper and wire. If you're going to change from Verizon to Cablevision or Altice, whatever they call it now, Verizon's going to spool up that wire because the next person that owns that or the existing owner may change over. So rather than terminate that wire and throw it away because it's expensive, they're leaving it spooled there in case there's a changeover. Then they just go right back to the house and connect it. That's my, messed up theory on it. But I'm not in the cable business, but I would think that it's about dollars and cents, especially
I can tell you
with
from a
copper
CWA,
wire.
I can tell you from a CWA standpoint, the installation of those wires, if you look at most of the traffic lights, when they wrap that wire around to make the connection, there's 3 circular rounds. That's a CWA standard. There is not one of them, except in my block, on my telephone pole. I stood there and demanded that he make the commandment that he must do it according to the law. And there's thousands of them that are just strung up, down or all around. There's no service, no standard whatsoever. And it just doesn't look good. I don't know if you people don't feel like that, but when I walk through town, I see it all over.
Well, hopefully
And I'm
we'll have
looking
some
for a
carry
little
some
help.
weight.
That's all.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you on Saturday.
Okay.
Bye now.
Hello, everyone. I know most of you. Nice to see you. Thanks for doing what you do. There are those of us who deeply appreciate public service, and I thank you. I was listening to Luigi speak. There's no one in the Northern Hemisphere here who plays more golf at Lake Isle than I do, and I want to thank you. It never looked better than it did this year. I'm glad we made money there, and I just think it's the jewel of Eastchester as far as I'm concerned. So I wanted to say that. Thank you so much for that, and happy holidays to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just wait till someone else comes down. If not, adjourn. Maybe we could close this evening with a moment of silence for the 2,400 servicemen and women that lost their lives 80 years ago today, a day that will live in infamy. It's great to see the kids there soaking this all in. And I thought to myself, should we reference 9/11 also? But all these young people were not even alive then, and even they don't have like the recollection that we do about 9/11. So hopefully, what the veterans are doing keeps everybody in touch, and we have developed a greater appreciation for the freedom we have here and for the service that the men and women of the armed forces provide to us and the protection they afford us. Anyway, with that being said, there being no one else, why don't we adjourn in a moment of silence for the Americans lost on Pearl Harbor. Please join me. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you.